Senator Honorable Crystal Asige, Communications and Public Affairs expert, Vivian Ta, as well as Lena Onyango, who is a partner tax and exchange control at CDH Kenya. Ladies, many thanks for being here with us, and it's great to have an all-female panel, when we're discussing matters of national importance as well. So let's begin with that big conversation on the finance bill, and I'd like to begin with you, Honorable Asige, because the debate has been around the motor vehicle tax. We've seen, VAT on bread and, taxes on mobile money collections. It's almost as though there's nothing positive to discuss in the Finance Bill 2024 proposals, which I'm sure you have read. What are some of the things that stand out most for you? And is there anything to celebrate in this bill?
Unfortunately, I have not seen anything to celebrate, and it's not because I can't see. It's because there's nothing there, okay? I have seen conversations, especially around the motor vehicle tax, and I saw a particular MP on a particular breakfast show talking about his thoughts on this tax, right? And he said, if you're driving a car, then you are assumed to be generating income, and that's why we're going to tax your car. And he was asked, so when you drove here to this studio, Mheshimiwa, were you creating income just driving from home to here? Then he said, well, maybe I was doing business in the car. And I was like, why don't our MPs understand the crux of these types of provisions? Why aren't they actually diving deep and really trying to figure out what does this mean for me as an MP, as a Kenyan in general, and also for my constituents who have brought me here to represent them. Mm-hmm. Because that explanation for me was just at a zero. And with that kind of logic, that means that if you're wearing shoes today and you're walking from home to work, that means that those shoes are generating for you income. So the government should also tax your shoes. They should tax your clothes because you're wearing them to go and generate income. So tax your clothes. I mean, by that kind of thinking, it's really, I feel like Kenyans, we have no hope. And I'm talking about parliamentarians who are on the majority side, because they will always have their way. Sadly, we have seen it in the last 2 years that they've been in government. Majority will always have their way. And us as minority, we'll just have our say. And our say, for me, is that there is nothing good in this finance bill. Just like last year, there was nothing good to see. This time, I think it's double, triple in terms of the negatives. And bread is going to go up. And we're seeing taxes increase for the creative industry. We're seeing taxes increase left, right, and center. And we have, like we're saying, no ability to see like, okay, this is because in the next 6 months, this will reduce in this place. This will be the benefit in the next 12 months that we'll be able to see. I'll be able to actually feel it as a Kenyan on the ground, like, okay, when I drive or when I buy this bread for an extra X amount of shillings, we are seeing a requisite sort of like improvement somewhere else in this other area. Like they give this analogy of a ball when you're at the beach or in the swimming pool and you zama the ball in the water. At some point it'll pop out somewhere else, right? But we're not seeing anything pop out anywhere else. We're not seeing any economic benefits popping out anywhere else. We're just seeing us being drowned. We're actually being pushed and being drowned just like that inflatable ball. And it's a real shame that our leadership, and especially the president, because at the end of the day, he is the commander-in-chief, it's a shame that he is continuing to allow these changes to be made and pushing and pressuring his side, which is the government side, to get in line. It's like, just like they said last year, nataka nione who will not vote for the government bills. I want to see. And we know that many people on the majority side pressure each other by saying, I will look at the voting list, you just ngojea wewe uone. You try and go against what the government position is, mm-hmm. and we'll see what will happen to you. And it's those kinds of threats that are holding people back, because in the corridors of parliament, you'll hear parliamentarians saying, by the way, ikitu ni mbaya, by the way, ikitu ni mbaya. But they can't do anything about it because they have signed with the devil.
And that was going to be my next question, because then Kenya's hopes rest on Parliament, the National Assembly, and the Senate. Lena, what are your thoughts on, even the fact that Honorable Asige says, the members of Parliament can't do anything? They've sort of signed a deal with the devil, because at this point, we expect that members of Parliament will speak for the people, shoot down proposals that will further hurt the people. But are you expecting that yourself?
I think as Kenyans, it's time we reflect on the leaders that we are electing, because those members of parliament are there because Kenyans voted them in. So for me, it's actually a moment of reflection as a Kenyan, as someone who votes. What is the kind of leader that is representing me in parliament? Because at the end of the day, they're the ones who pass these laws. Then the question I also ask myself is, do they really take the time to read and understand the impact of some of these legislations that they're passing? Or is it just a ticking the box kind of exercise? And are they also asking themselves, if I vote this bill or I vote against it, then what would be the impact of this particular legislation on my constituents? Because they are there to represent us Kenyans. They're not there representing their own interests. So that's how I look at it. I think for me, and I hope for many other Kenyans, it should be a time for us to reflect on the whole electoral process.
All right, and you know, President William Ruto was speaking to the media not very long ago, and the statement was, things will get tougher, and I know Kenyans will complain. And he said, in fact, if this was an election year, I know I would not have been elected. So the basis for even the proposals you've seen in the finance bill has been that medium-term revenue strategy, which was meant to provide a framework for tax system reforms and boost domestic revenue. Just yesterday, we had the Controller of Budget, Margaret Nyakango, saying overtaxation and increasing taxes will actually not be sufficient to fill that budget deficit, which is what, 700 and something billion for the next financial year. What are your thoughts as a tax expert on the framework for tax system? Has it been reformed to increase domestic borrowing in any way? Has it helped really?
In terms of raising tax revenues in line of the MTRS, I feel the amendments that are now introduced in the Finance Bill 2024 seek towards broadening the tax base. Because now there are certain amendments that are now bringing people who were not in the tax or within the scope of certain provisions of the law. They're bringing in, it brings them within the tax. You know, now they become taxable. So certain, like Crystal has mentioned, social media content creators, influencers, the digital space. There's also amendment of what now amounts to a royalty, meaning if you now distribute sort of software, then now that comes within the tax scope of taxation. But on the flip side, you will see that in terms of the employees, there are certain reliefs that have now been given a bump. So on one hand, I say the finance bill this time employees are happy because non-cash benefits have been given a bump. The relief in terms of pension contributions or withdrawals has also been given certain tax exemptions. So it seems the bill is sort of making life easier for employees. But on the flip side, I mean, we're a consumer market. Standard rating of certain VAT items like bread and all these other things, financial services. I mean, Kenyans borrow, Kenyans use M-Pesa. So you will be subjected to VAT and excise duty on those transactions. I mean, the cost will go up for sure. But will the government get more revenue? Yes. But ultimately, what will be the impact of that additional cost? Does it mean that now as a Kenyan, I'll stop using M-Pesa? I would rather use cash payment. What would be the tripling effect of this on the economy? So yes, they will get revenue, but then what would be the effect of this?
And we've seen a lot of that with the bank to mobile transfer charges, and many vendors, especially SMEs, literally just decided to use M-Pesa or send money or Pochi la Biashara because it was eating into their profits. Vivian, what stands out for you in this finance bill? Because we do have the responsibility really of informing Kenyans on the situation as it is. And it may not be all bad, like Lena says. There are those who are benefiting from some of these proposals. What stands out for you?
I think a lot has been spoken about the key ones, like the motor vehicle tax, the taxes, the one to introduce like on bread and just basic items. But I think the one thing is the tax for people who are monetizing their content on the digital space. I think it's going to be 5%. That's not spoken so much about, but it's going to affect a lot of, young people. and people who are trying to make money in the digital space, because at any point that you are monetizing from, your social presence, your digital presence, or just content creation, you can expect that, the government will be taking back 5%. Remember, you use bundles or Wi-Fi or internet to connect to the internet, and there are tax proposals to increase access to the internet. So it's like at every point you turn, the government is taking away from you. It's taking away from you. And I think I'm most disappointed in Parliament, because Parliament is the arm of government that's supposed to represent the people and then also hold the government accountable for, for revenue and for expenditure. But we barely see that, maybe because of the quality of the people we have in Parliament, and also maybe because the ruling party, the Kenya Kwanza government, has majority, and so they tend to just have their way. When anything is proposed, they just vote, pro-government, without really thinking about how this legislation will impact the people. And remember, once a legislation is passed and signed into law, it's for posterity. It's not something you will wake up tomorrow and say, tumekata. Like in the case when the avocado farmers were up in arms against the taxes, the KRA trying to get them into the tax bracket, and their MPs were suddenly, seemingly siding with them. Yet in Parliament, they voted for the Finance Bill 2023 last year. So we forget that this legislation passes not just for today, not just for tomorrow, but for posterity, unless and until a time when maybe it will be amended or repealed. So these laws are for long term. We need to look at the impact beyond just, trying to raise money for this I don't know if it's 4.6 trillion budget. I want to see this 4.6 trillion budget, what is it going to do for us, It's sad that you keep hearing, yes, we are raising the budget, but essential things like education are impacted. It should not be like that. Right. So I think Kenyans need to rethink, who are you giving the mandate to represent you in Parliament? But even where we are now, maybe the other thing is to actively and intentionally seek out your representatives, your member of Parliament, and ask them, how do you intend to vote on this bill? So that I know, as a voter in your constituency, I know whether you're for me or for the executive. Right. So we need to get to a place where, as Kenyans, we are actually asking these questions to the people who are in those offices to represent us. But also, additionally, the other thing we can do is get involved in public participation. I know a lot of people say that it makes no difference. But if we put enough pressure, eventually, something will have to give. Otherwise, this government will walk all over us.
All right. I had a conversation earlier this week with Kimilili MP Didmus Baraza, and one of the things he was appealing to his colleagues in Parliament is, we are on recess, don't go on holiday, then come back after recess and start saying this is what the Kenya Kwanza government has done, when everybody had time to read the finance bill and go down to their people and have consultations on that. And so it's a huge responsibility for members of Parliament. But like Lena says, Honorable Asige, there are those who, there are proposals that may be in favor of employees, especially, and some even for employers. And one of them is expansion of per diem rates. And so the proposed provision is to amend the tax-free per diem rate from a daily maximum of 2,000 to an amount not exceeding 5%. And the proposal, according to experts here, said it seeks to encourage employers to have proper policies that guide employees on the accounting of per diem. It also aligns per diem to accommodate the high cost of living, and I think this would be a really welcome proposal for for many employees and government employees. Honorable Asige, what do you make of this proposal, and you know, again, of importance is accountability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that you give in one hand and then you take from the other hand, because these are the same employees, even though fine, face value, it might, there are some provisions that are for them that they might be happy with, but at the same time, you have to go out and live. Once your salary comes at the end of the month, how much is actually left in it? Once you have paid your tax on motor vehicle, bought food, done your fuel, school fees, security, school bus, school lunches, how much are you going to be left with, even if you are seemingly being given more? Is it really that? Is it really what it is, or is it just an illusion that this budget proposal are trying to create? I think it's an illusion for me, because you cannot give me relief here, but then unanifinya on the other side, right? Because that's a net zero value for me, and. Yes, it might look nice on the surface with regards to per diem, but you look at the costs that you're having to incur every single corner of your day, right? From the moment you wake up, your electricity, your gas, your water, especially now in Nairobi, where we are seeing so much issues with fresh water. You don't know, many people in my estate around where I live, there's no fresh water. So you have to still now ongeza pesa kununua maji, and that's for your entire household. So I don't see that there's a benefit. That's why I'm saying I don't see that there's a benefit, even though, of course, like I say, when you look at it, when you glance, it does look like a benefit. Now, in terms of budgets, you know, 4-point-something trillion for the country, there are countries who are just here, our neighbors, Rwanda, with an annual budget of about 1.5 trillion dollars. And look at how great they're doing. Look at what they're doing for their people. Yes, there's some people who might say, oh, but, you know, but the issues, the political issues in Rwanda as well. Fine, there, of course, will always be political issues in every single country. But what is the bang for your buck that you're getting?
Right.
And in Rwanda, it's beautiful, and they are at a much lower budget than us. And even on this point about digital creators, young people thought that in 2022, politics will not touch them. Now look, they're being touched. You know, the politics is at their doorstep. It's on their news feeds right now, politics, at their fingertips, literally. Because even though they did not come out to vote, which I feel like every single young person who is of age to vote should have taken that, you know, their sovereign power to come and vote. They did not, unfortunately. And now we're seeing the pinch of it, even for the 15-year-old, 16-year-old who is just, you know, does dance challenges on TikTok. Now those dances will have to cost them. Right. And unfortunately, I feel like this is sort of like tough love. They should learn this lesson so that in the next electoral cycle, people actually get engaged.
All right, and of course, that also say that, you know, expanding the tax base, of course, is a good idea. And people, like the president said, people will complain for a short time, but get the hang of it. That's only based on whether they get the benefit of these taxes that they're paying. And one of the proposals, Lena, is VAT on financial and insurance services. And so the proposal is to move various financial services and insurance services from exempt to standard rated. This is issuance of credit cards, debit cards, money transfer services, check handling, and all these things. Now, in a society that is trying to ensure that there is more banked people, you know, trying to ensure that everybody has a mobile money account because services now are digital, the proposal is likely to increase the cost of financial services altogether. What will the impact be on the economy?
Definitely the costs in terms of getting these financial services will go up. I mean, I think as a country we've made great strides in creating financial awareness and now bringing people to now seek certain services from the bank. So I feel the uptake of these services will go down. I mean, if it's not necessary that I sign a check, then it's okay. I will go and do a cash deposit on the counter. If it's not necessary that I transact with my ATM card, it's okay. We will go the old way of, I remember my mom used to have, it used to look like a passbook, and you go on the counter before the ATMs came about, and I think that's where we'll probably go back to. I mean, the revenues also for the banking and the insurance sector definitely will go down, because the uptake in terms of their services will go down because the costs are high. So like I say, there's a ripple effect on some of these proposals that are in the finance bill, and we really hope, as Vivian has said, when we are doing the public participation and making submissions to the parliamentary committee, that they will look at the broader picture and not just the aspect of we need to raise additional tax revenue.
And I think that you're already seeing that right now, people regressing back to a time where, you know, they didn't feel the pressure. People are saying, usinilipe na M-Pesa, ebu nipatie tu cash. Like that's what people are saying.
Economy.
Correct, yeah. People are moving out of the whole till number situation to tumatu or una cash, madam, una cash. You see, people are already feeling it, and that is a ripple effect to what Lena has just said, which is that people are going to start thinking, you know what, if I don't have to do it this way, I won't, because I don't want to feel the pinch.
Let's wind up on this with you, Vivian, because the information is out, the proposals are out, and you encourage public participation. And you know, even in the last financial year, how many Kenyans really even managed to get their hands on a copy of this finance bill? And maybe, you know, Mheshimiwa Asige could tell us, where can Kenyans get a copy of this, and how can they be involved in the public participation process? But what do you tell Kenyans about the importance of public participation on this one thing that could, you know, change the cost of living a month from now?
First of all, like in Nairobi today, I think the National Assembly Committee responsible, I think they're having forums today in Nairobi. There's one is going to be in Embakasi and the other one in Riruta. There are details in the Parliament's website. But then also, if you're interested in getting, of course, a copy of the bill, it's available on Parliament's website. But aside from that, because of course not everybody, you know, will have access, or even if you had access, not everybody would understand, because it's a technical document, so to speak. But that's why I'm saying people need to be aware of, you know, who is your MP and what are they doing, what are they standing for. I am very disappointed in my member of parliament in Langata, because, you know, he came up, he got voted in on the platform of Utu na Watu, essentially meaning caring about the people. But the things he says now and the things he does now, it's crazy. You wonder, did you forget about your campaign promises? Or did the money become too good and you forgot about the people? Because you can't say you care about people when your constituents are being hurt by the doctor's strike. Your constituents are being hurt by school feeding program being cut off. Your constituents are being hurt by the increased taxes. And he supported the finance bill last year. We're waiting to see how he's going to vote for the finance bill this year. But we collectively need to hold our members of parliament accountable. We need to ask them, what are you voting for? How will you vote? Why are you voting like that? Is this what your constituents are telling you? Or, you know, have you sided with the executive and you're reaping the benefits and you've forgotten about the people who got you in the office? It's not enough to say that I've issued, you know, bursaries to people in my constituencies, and I have contributed to funerals or scholarships and stuff like that. At the end of the day, your key and core responsibility as a member of parliament is legislation. How are you voting on bills that affect people? Is accountability, holding the government accountable. When you're required to speak on the executive's mandate, do you speak? When there are issues of flood and national disasters, you know, we don't hear your voice, we don't see what you're saying. You're silent, and lives are being lost, property is being lost. So you cannot say that just because, you know, you've issued bursaries and, you know, you've contributed to a few things here and there, that you're working. That is not work. That is not your mandate.
All right, we need to take a break. Honorable Asige, let's very briefly wind up with you on where Kenyans, you know, how Kenyans can be part of this public participation, and what you expect from both Kenyans and members of parliament like yourself.
Members of parliament, what I expect from them in the public participation is to listen. Is to listen and legislate. That is all. That is what I say that I am here to do, is to listen, to articulate and legislate. And that should be the only thing that's on their mind. Unfortunately, there are other interests. This is politics. It's expected. However, you should look at what has happened in the last couple of years and use that to forecast and to inform the decisions that you're going to make. Are you going to side with your people, or are you going to side with your politics.
All right,
and for members, I mean, of the general public, you have to get involved. There's no other way, because right now you're seeing when you're not involved, things go wrong. So if your voice is not heard, if you're not actually sitting at that table, even if you don't think it's going to make a difference, like has been said, just go and look at your MP in the eye and ask them, what are you going to do for me? What have you done for me? And then from there, make your decision. Say, this is what I'm going, from whatever you do today, you're going to tell me what I'm going to do now in 2027.
All right, let's take a break. You know, they say, usipojipanga utapangwa. So please get yourself a copy of that Finance Bill 2024. Take a look at it and make your voice heard. Let's take a break here on The New Dawn. When we come back, we review that debate on the one man, one shilling policy, its implication. We'd like to hear what you think about it as well, and also be discussing that Limuru 3 meeting set to take place today as sharp divisions meet in the Mount Kenya region. Just stay with us.
When it's a Saturday, there's only one